Hi, this is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe. Today we're talking about Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and more specifically, beginning Chapter 4, You Influence Your Subconscious Mind. Also known in our speak here, garbage in, garbage out, right? It was interesting that this morning I was on Facebook sharing messages, right? Conversing with people. Yes, I'm not the only early riser in my community. And someone had shared a video about owning a business and what it takes. And it's little clips, like a series of clips from, Marcus Lemonis, 50 Cent. I have no idea who that is, but 50 Cent. Even had Kanye West on there right after Warren Buffett. So, Steve Jobs. So you know the kind of video I'm talking about. Elon Musk. And what was interesting is that more than one of the people in there said that I can control my will and my thoughts. And it's because of that I was able to stay focused, determined, persistent, and succeed. I thought that was interesting considering today's focus. So we're calling autosuggestion the medium for influencing the subconscious mind, and it is all about us. I have control to take from what I have conscious and put it into my subconscious. And it's also called the third step toward riches, according to the book. So autosuggestion is a term that applies to all suggestions, all of them, all self-administered stimuli, which read one's mind through the five senses. Now, see, did you get that? It's not just my thoughts. Okay, it is my thoughts, it is my sense of touch, my sense of smell, my sense of taste, and my sense of hearing. All of them come into play with auto-suggestion, self-suggestion. No thought can enter the subconscious mind without the aid of auto-suggestion. This is what I like about this book. He's actually telling us that nature has so built us, you and me, so that we have absolute control over the material that reaches our subconscious mind, and it's through our five senses. Now, having said that, here comes the issue. We don't always do it. We don't always take control of that and do it. All right, Tim, is the subconscious like Santa Claus? We would like it to be there, but it's not really not really a real thing? No. No, the subconscious is that which isn't conscious. So if we understand that we can influence and change our behavior, our habits, our thinking, our way of doing by first being aware of what it is we want to change, and then we change it out for something else. How do we do the change out? If I want to go from mediocre and just being here and just doing what's in front of me and to be inspired and motivated to do something else, how do I change that kind of thinking? How do I change the behavior of every time I get a paycheck or I get notification that a client has paid me, that all of that money goes into a general account, but instead I want a habit of seeing it differently so that portions go into various budget lines. If I want to change my thinking or the way I respond to the world, how do I do that? Well, it begins with awareness that I want to change something in particular. Then comes the action. And the action is recognizing what it is I'm doing now and then deciding what I want to do differently. Because you can't just not do something, have to replace it with something else. So how do we do that? We do it through this principle of autosuggestion, where we purposefully seek out people, places, and things, information, data, knowledge, purposefully seek out that which is going to help us to change. Okay? Then we move forward into the habit of repetition to change the way we think, which changes the way we feel, which changes the way we act. That's as simple as I can put it. I can go into the details of what Napoleon Hill has written, and it's lengthy, and you know how wordy he gets, right? So the point is that we learned earlier that we wrote down the statement of what we desired, what it is we're working towards, and we're using that as a way to develop a money consciousness, a way to look at money, a way to look at riches, a way to look at wealth, because many of us are stuck in a negative. Okay? So we wrote that down. Then we read it aloud regularly, day by day, first thing in the morning, in the evening, and eventually your subconscious mind recognizes and acts only on those thoughts which have been well mixed with that desire that you have. So it's a combination. Again, it's not just thoughts. It is putting everything into effect. So, an example. There was a time when I literally looked in the mirror and could not really see myself. There was a time when I felt so badly about myself and had such... I used to say that my insides were a cesspool. That's how bad I felt about myself. And then I made the decision that I wanted to see myself differently. And it began with learning from others how they thought about themselves and what they saw when they looked in the mirror, but it also helped to know what they saw when they looked at me. And it began with a decision to make a change. And that's what we're talking about here, is you make a decision to make a change. And then, at that time, I wrote out various statements that I could read while I was looking at myself in the mirror. And I read them every single day, every morning. And of course, there was a combination of other things. I really wanted to feel differently about myself. I was learning how to pray, and pray for things other than that which wasn't working for me. And what wasn't working for me was praying that I'd be removed from this earth and put over here. I'd be removed from this spot and put over here. Things that just didn't make much sense. But continued repetition of stating aloud, followed by the desire and backed by the desire that I really wanted to see myself differently, combined with a faith in something greater than myself that this could happen. That faith was based on seeing other people who had done something similar. I was able to achieve that. So I know this stuff works. But that's where it begins. I had to make the decision. That's what we've done up to this point. We made a decision to focus on our definite chief aim. Right? That's our desire. We've stated it aloud. We've written it down. We've put it in the context of achieving a particular amount of money. And that's it. We've stated it aloud. And now we're learning that if we back it by intense emotion and faith, that combination, pretty good. I gotta tell you, it's powerful. We can feel confident we are going to reach what we've set out to accomplish. And what this is telling us in autosuggestion and subconscious mind is, what are we putting in to ourselves? What are we reading? What are we hearing? What are we doing? What are we participating in discussions, right? That is conducive to us reaching our goal. And if what we're doing, seeing, reading, learning isn't helping us to move forward, then we either need to change the way we're looking at it or we need to remove it. That's pretty much it. So there was a question to this side. Christopher, I believe you had a question. I find it very hard to identify the things I want to change since there are so many. Where's a good place to start? That's interesting. A good place to start is to get quiet with a trusted friend or advisor. Seek counsel and go a little deeper, because usually my experience has been, well, there's so much change about myself. It really does boil down to here's something you're not liking what you're doing or thinking, and it's the one thing that's affecting everything else. That's been my experience, even with myself. And then you identify one thing at a time. And that's what you make the decision to work on. Then another way to do it is, what's the one thing that comes topmost to my mind, right? When I'm posed the question, if I could change something about myself today, what would that be? What's the first thing that pops out? All right, so let's do that exercise. The first thing that pops out is, well, what would I change about me today? It would be my appearance. What do you mean by your appearance? I'd lose a little weight. Okay. So what's it going to take to do that? Going to have to exercise. No, wait a second. Let's go back a step. How bad do you want to lose the weight? Why do you want to lose the weight? See? And so when you have a trusted advisor or a mentor or a friend or somebody that's willing to be honest with you and walk you through that, you identify that's what it is I want to change. This is the action step I'm going to take to change it. And you get going. Commitment. Commitment equals action. Got to do things. And that's what this book is all about. It's all about the doing, isn't it? It's all about the doing. Oh, Steve, so good to see you. Isabel, glad you're here. Ron, welcome. Anybody want to jump in or come to the side and participate in the discussion? You know, there's every single day we're bombarded with information, right? And whether or not we consciously pay attention to it, it's actually hitting our subconscious. It's amazing the type of influence those messages have over us over time when we don't consciously pay attention. I can see it at work on social media and in private conversations. I can see it at work in myself. I can see it at work in others. And now I'm talking to the good. It's not just the negative. There's powerful influence that happens when I'm surrounded by people who talk a certain way. You talk about problem solving. They talk about overcoming. They talk about solutions. They talk about action. They talk about planning. And when I hear that more than I hear the negative, I have a tendency to get more done and feel better about what it is I'm doing. So I'm feeding my mind. And repetition matters. Repetition matters. But in this case, we're actually talking about purposeful, intentional repetition about what our major definite purpose is. What is that desire that we've written out? Backing it with that emotion as to the why we want that. Why is that so important to us? Why is that so important to me that I reach this revenue goal in my business? And sometimes it takes 2 minutes, right? For others who are just starting on their journey of change and wanting to just be different and be better, it takes a little more effort. Did for me the first time, second time, and third time I went through this. And now it's, I get it. I get it. I've been able to change my thinking. Quite honestly, I went from, we're on chapter 4. Quite honestly, I went from survival mode to thrive. And it's all because I put forth the intentional action towards changing my thinking by doing things in a repetitive manner every single morning and night, backing it up with the desire to make that change and the why I wanted to make that change, combined with the faith that I knew it could happen. Well, I had faith because it had happened to me before. I knew I could change the way I see the world. I knew I could change my perspective and my responses and reactions to things, right? And those who don't believe they can do it, where I first started was believing many, many, many years ago, believing because I could see other people doing it. And trying to figure out, well, if you can, why can't I? Why not? Why not? So, those are my thoughts, of which you will continue to hear if somebody doesn't jump in the seat or participate in the discussion to the side. Thanks, Steve. Good points about talking about things that take you toward your goal. Yeah. And there you go, Mike. Just because we're programmed one way by those around us doesn't mean we need to stay that way. And that's it in a nutshell, isn't it? Is that we can reprogram our minds. I mean, just think about it. Why do I think the way I do? Why do you think the way you do? No, think about it. No, more than just, oh, well, this is who I am and what I do with my world and what I do in with my life and the influence of my parents and all of that. So how's it working for you? Is it getting where you want to go? If it is, fantastic. Don't change a thing. Holy cow, I'm not here to tell you that anything you've got going on that's great for you needs to be changed. Heck no. Matter of fact, would love to have you share that so the rest of us can learn, because there's some of us that are struggling with trying to change that thinking, wherever that thinking came from. We were programmed one way. Now we're changing our programming, and it takes time. There's a lot of programming to change in there, Mike. I got well over 50 years of living here. That there's a lot of things that come into play. Hence my response to Christopher's question about where do you start? Start with the thing that's really gotten in your way, the biggest obstacle. Start there. And Catherine's saying she thinks it starts by saying it out loud. Okay. Oh, interesting. Cindy's saying she recently had to do 2 things for a graduate school application. One is had to create a career statement, goal, experiences, etc. The other was to get 3 letters of recommendations to include positives in areas that need work. My references shared the letters with me. It was good to see their perspective of me, positive and need to improve. It is, isn't it? That's why I'm an advocate of going to someone for counsel, going to a trusted friend, mentor, advisor, and say, you know what, I'm having trouble really seeing myself as the world sees me. Got a lot of stuff that's getting in the way. How do you see me? Are you willing to kind of help me see the good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful, the awesome? You know, how do you see me? Some of it will make sense to you. Some of it will just flat out, I had no idea that's the way people saw me. You know, it's very helpful to get out of ourselves. And yes, Mike, you are the master of your own destiny. Only you can change you and your thoughts and your way of thinking. That's true. And you make the decision. See, that's what we're talking about here. You're making the decision to change your thinking. I'm not telling you how to think. I'm telling me how to think. I'm telling me what works for me. Has been proven to work for me, to keep doing what works. And when the obstacles present themselves, and when something different shows itself, I can fall back on or respond with that which I've been teaching myself. See, that's another thing. Catherine said, say it aloud. All right. And then we listen and watch for what works for others and find ways to make that work for us. Yes, we do all of that. But I got to tell you, it starts with a decision that I want to make this change. And then here's the interesting thing. I make the decision, and then I can pre-plan a response or a reaction. You ever tried to do that? And I can do that when I deploy this principle. So if you all have heard me before, that my public speaking has only been recently over the past 8 years or so. And that when I haven't spoken in public for a while, especially if it's a bigger group, the nerves get to me and I have to make a trip to the ladies' room and lose my breakfast, lose my lunch. But I can tell you this, that in spite of that, I made the decision years ago when I started my business that it was necessary for me to have public speaking as part of my marketing plan. 2, that I would accept any speaking or training opportunity presented to me that was in line with my current skill set and knowledge. So I made that decision ahead of time. I would accept that. Number 3, in order for me to be the best speaker, presenter, trainer that I can be, I needed to find a ritual, something that was going to help me to be better with and that's just handling my anxieties. I made that decision. I sought the information. I practiced it, reminded myself of it, and part of my marketing plan. So when opportunities have presented themselves, a decision was already made. Didn't have to think about it. And that's what we mean by the subconscious, right? You don't have to think about it consciously because we've already made those changes. We're on our road to success and actions that will help us succeed. Mike, my friend Mike's it's been a while since I've seen you. And Catherine's saying that's true. If I don't have the belief to do it, then it's just empty actions or words. That decision has to be made. Yeah, you got to have belief in what you're doing. Good morning, Mike. Good to see you, my friend. It's been a while.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say, because I'm reading here on page 73 where it talks about that you have to present the idea. You have to say this over and over and over again. The subconscious mind is very powerful in the fact that we believe whatever. It's just almost an automatic thing, Like yep. when I was a young adult, when I was in my 20s, my father tried to teach me how to make pancakes. And pancakes are a difficult item to do if you don't have a hot griddle and you're not willing to take the time to allow the top of the pancake, that side you can see, to bubble up properly so that before you flip it over.
Okay.
And so the first time I tried to do it, the griddle wasn't hot enough, and I put it in there too quickly, and I tried to flip it over, and it just became a gooey mess. And I just said, you know what? I'm never going to be able to do pancakes. I'm just going to give up right now. There's no point even trying. And years later, I've now taken the time. I've gotten myself a nice cast iron skillet, and I've become a little bit more patient with what I'm doing. And now I can actually make beautiful pancakes without even really thinking about it. It's just okay. That's the way it's supposed to look. I just flip it over, and I'm good to go.
Love that. So you've got the right tools now and the mindset that says, well, I'm going to practice until I get it right. And now that I've been practicing and continue to practice, you don't have to think about what needs to be done. You know what tools to bring out, and it's second nature.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's a good example of putting it into action. That's it. We don't have to go any deeper than that. I mean, it's a deep topic, right? But it's nothing we can't all do. That's the interesting part. All it takes is a little action on your part to make the decision of what it is you want to do and to not limit yourself by saying never.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like here at the top of 73, which says, do not become discouraged if you cannot control and direct your emotions the first time you try to do something. Try to do so. I think that's very, very important to remember that the first time you try to do something, you may not do it exactly right. And if you're the type of person who likes to say stuff out loud, and other people happen to be around when you say something,
yeah,
other people obviously are going to have their own mindset for what they believe, and of course, you may get some ridicule. You may get, people say, that person's kind of funny the way they're doing things. But don't let other people influence you, because you're here for yourself. You're here to reprogram your mind to be able to go and achieve whatever it is your goals are. After all, they are your goals, not somebody else's goals.
That's very true. And I'd like to throw this little piece in addition to what you were saying, is that when you're first starting out with making these kind of changes, with going after a goal that others would laugh at, or you're finding yourself influenced by external things, in answer to Aaron's how the external environments influence the subconscious mind. If you're getting naysayers and you're getting those that are laughing, and those that, even if it's one or two, that's all it takes, isn't it? That's all it takes. Absolutely. One or two. Then go find some people to replace them with, and distance yourself from whomever it is that really isn't going to be helpful in you reaching what you want to reach. Now, I can tell you this. I was just in an excellent conversation with a gal who was building a business, and she was just starting out. So she went to her very close circle of friends. Her friends had been with her since childhood. They were girlfriends that they had met weekly, if not more. They knew each other inside and out. And she was getting ready to step out of corporate world into her own business. And every single one of them brought up negatives to her doing that. Mm-hmm. You're going to lose your 401k. It was all based on security, which most of us, that's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a big risk to step out on your own. You're not going to make as much money. How are you going to, you're not going to be able to pay your bills. You can't just start something new. Why don't you try it on the side first to see if it'll work? Ever try to start a business on the side? Yeah. So, and there was a lot. And she said, had she listened to them, she never would have started her business. So instead, rather than removing them from her life because they were very close friends, she realized they just simply weren't the ones that could influence her to be better in her business. So she distanced herself from them in terms of talking about the business, and found a new group of people that knew how to run business, that understood the obstacles, that when a problem came up, we're all about solution finding, that, weren't saying you can't do this, you won't succeed, but instead we're saying, yeah, there's an answer to this, we'll figure it out. Been there, here's how I did it might work for you. And then relied on the girlfriends for the emotional support of just being a woman and having girlfriends, mm-hmm. and still having fun. And she says, I still have them. They just don't need to hear about the details of my business because they don't know. So why would I go to them anyway? It's like some of them, she realized, they don't come to me about other things, right? They don't come to me about things to do with sick mother-in-laws. I don't have a sick mother. Well, actually, there's more details. But the realization is that the people that you have around you now are not your end-all, be-all. But you also don't have to completely shut them out. Absolutely. So I wanted to add that to another tool. Okay. And then we have Cindy, who's just not really good at pancakes. And she's supporting your claim that, you'd be surprised how simple some people think it is, and yet others find it more challenging. Cindy, it seems like you're not alone, are you? All right. And yes, Catherine, different people will be able to encourage us in different areas. Sometimes the closer they are, the harder it is for them to see outside the box. That's it, but see, that applies to me too. And I think, Mike, you'll understand this. I am so close to who I am. I know so much about me that I get in my own way of success. It is my thinking and my subconscious that gets in the way of making changes. That's why I have to feed my mind. I have to read things that are different than the way I currently think. I have to ask questions so I understand, what in the world does this mean? What in the world? You know? And so what I'm saying is, when I first started Think and Grow Rich back in August of 2015 on this program, I was asking those questions. We have the recordings. I have no idea what that means. Could somebody please come in here and explain to me? I was in survival mode. I wasn't capable of seeing beyond the basics of, well, I'm in short-term thinking. I get that. Long-term thinking, okay, but wait a second. We're talking about regularly seeing something a particular way. I'm not under. So they did. I got answers. I got answers from people who understood it. What do you think, Mike?
Oh, it's much like people who go out and play the lottery and win all these big amounts of money, and then a year later they're broke. And they're looking back, they're like, well, wait a minute, I just had $150 million in my pocket. Where did it go? And without the basic tools of like money management, learning how to maybe take a percentage of it and reinvest to make more money. Without basic tools, nothing can actually ever work. You have to have the basic understanding of anything before you can add on the complex stuff.
You do. Well said. You do. And that's the way it works with this. Unless your back is against the wall, where it really is life or death, and you have to make a change and you're thinking now, or you're a goner, or you're forced to change your thinking because of an intense experience, and that happens, right? Happens to all of us, good and bad. Then it's up to you to make the decision that you want to change your thinking. Now it's up to you to find, well, what's the path? What is it I should be saying to myself? Mike was saying about the pancakes. We've even got Cindy out here backing him up and saying, you know what, I'd love to see someone else's way, because this was Mom's way and her way. It might not work for me. So again, we're learning from each other, right? Take advantage of the people that are around you that are offering themselves to be taken advantage of. Learn from them, and that's what we're doing here. The book's telling us this is how you do it. I've been doing it. I read every morning my major definite purpose. It's right up there on the wall. I know what the business is going to be making. I know what I'm striving for. I know what it takes to get there. I've got right next to the definite purpose, I've got the sales process, which is right next to the list of things. Well, you guys know I'm a stickler for my list. Wait a minute. My list, right, of how I am going to reach that, and then broken down into my daily tasks of what needs to be done in order to reach that. Done it enough that I know it needs to be done. It doesn't matter what I think, feel, or believe at the time. It needs to be done, right? I can't get in my own way. It's now automatic.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to have there, because think about it. If you want to go from point A to point B, but yet you don't know what point B is, you don't know the small steps to get you to point B, how can you ever say that you've arrived at point B?
That's right. And that's where we started when we talked about desire in the previous chapters, was stating out loud, this is what I want. In this case, because it's Think and Grow Rich, it is about, I want money. I want a lot of money. Well, you can't just say that. How much do you want? Why do you want that much money? What's interesting is I saw a Tony Robbins episode once where he walked somebody through. Somebody said, I wanted a lot of money. He said, well, what's a lot? Well, I need $1 million. Why? Well, to live the way I want to. Okay. So what are you doing to get it? Well, I can't do anything because $1 million is too much money. So what he did was he walked them through the details. Well, so what is it that you really want? What kind of life is it that you want? What is it that you envision having? And the person talked about the kind of house they wanted to live in, the kind of boat they wanted to own, the kind of travels that they wanted. And all along, Tony was making notes, right? You know me, I'm a stickler for writing. So he's jotting down these notes. And he says to the person, he says, that's interesting. According to you, you need $1 million in order to do that, but not really. You only need $247,000. You should, the look on the person's face is, here's the value of having somebody outside yourself, right? Thinking differently than what you do. Oh, well, maybe I can get that money. So what does it look like for you to get that money? What kind of things do you have to do in exchange for money? What services are you going to render for it? And that's what the first couple of chapters have walked us through to this point. Now we're to the point of, we've got the detail, what we want, and what we are going to give in exchange for it. Now we have to remind ourselves every single day of this is what we're working towards and why we're working towards it, and that we believe it can really happen. And that repetition can change our behavior to the point of being able to be confident that we can do this. And when we do that, I'm here to tell you it works. It got me out of survival mode, put me into thrive. Flat out, did it. I am in thrive mode now. I feel very confident I'm going to reach my goal, if not exceed it, much sooner than the date I had put on it. I have confidence when I put forth the actions that I'm taking, and when I don't, we all know sometimes you just wake up and you just, it's like a whole nother person invaded your body, right? I've got my circle of people that I connect with, and that's what it looks like for me. Does that make any sense to you, Mike?
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense.
Well, don't you have some very close, like an inner circle that you go to?
Yeah, I network with a few of my clients and a few people that I've worked with in the past that are all business owners that I can bounce ideas off of, and that's always important to have, because I have all these ideas. I mean, literally, I can sit here for the next 20 years and just create websites everywhere, and they'll never make me any money, because most of the ideas that I have are not really going to be very, very beneficial for me. So sometimes I need to just focus on 2 or 3 businesses, and I don't need to do 50 or 60 different websites.
Oh, shiny object syndrome. Actually, all you're doing is just doing what you love, right?
Absolutely.
Because you love to design websites and you love to build them. But yet what I'm hearing you say is you're using these other people as a restraint to help you to restrain and focus yourself so that it's more beneficial to you in the long run. Because you can expend all this energy and have a great time and then wonder how in the world I'm going to pay my bills. So,
well, yeah, that and sometimes when I come up with an idea, I may not have all the pieces in place, and I may not have thought about all the possible, tax issues and having to incorporate and, do all this stuff and collect different taxes for different places and do all the remitting.
All the
I don't want to do all that.
And then you have it. But see, you made that decision. You didn't want to. And in order for you to keep that decision and to abide by it, the direction that you want to go, you're relying on these other people to help you do that. But I'm doing the exact same thing. I have a mastermind group. I have an inner circle, which is that handful of people that I go to with an idea or with a problem. I have my own mastermind groups that I facilitate, the one that I belong to. I have teams that I rely on to help keep me on track, but I'm also help keep them on track, and the teams are working on projects that are in line with what I do in my business. But I can say yes to those projects because I made the decision, during that, this is my primary purpose, my major definite purpose for my business, what I'm doing, and it's in line. Sorry, sometimes it's really easy to say yes. Sometimes it's really easy to say no. I had a business opportunity come across my desk this weekend, and I saw the value in it. I saw exactly how it would work. I said, this is beautiful. This is awesome. It's not for me. Because I would have to start all over again. You don't do that. Not if you want to be successful. Stay focused on the goal until you reach it. I haven't reached it yet, so other business opportunities will come in front of me.
Oh yeah, all the time.
And now I can be confident about that, like you can. You can be confident about that, right?
Yeah, I'm always seeing business opportunities slide across my plate, and I say, oh, oh, this looks so good, but doesn't fit in with my line where I need to be.
That's right. Stick with what you're doing because that's where you're going to find success. Not only success in accomplishing something, but success in money. It's the only way to really attain the riches and the dollar amounts that you have in your mind for you. You got to stay focused. Boy, we got some interesting things happening in the chat between Aaron and Cindy. Still talking about pancakes. They're still talking about pancakes. All right. I'm going to let them talk about their pancakes. Pancakes are important. Yes,
I was just going to say one thing about pancakes. It was interesting. My dad used to, when he tried to teach me, he said, look, this is so simple. I don't understand why it's so difficult for you. And it wasn't,
how frustrating is that, right?
It wasn't until I decided, see, the problem for me is I had to be able to get to where I had the patience and the time, because I used to be the kind of person who would set something on the stove and walk away. Set a timer for 10 minutes, come back in 10 minutes, and then wonder why the water was all boiled away and I had nothing to be able to cook in.
So you just put more water in next time. See, I get that. This is from somebody who didn't know how to cook. I moved out of the house and get into my first house, and all I could cook was grilled cheese, and yeah. And even then that was like iffy. Grilled cheese and tuna fish and noodles, and the only thing cooked there were the noodles. All right, so now we have Cindy. Okay, your part of the discussion really wasn't about pancakes. It's about how the pancakes are relating and can be a metaphor for other things. Yeah, and that's what Mike's talking about. Oh, just substitute. Well, it's so simple to build a website. Right, Mike? For you it is. I don't understand why you don't get that. Well, it's so simple to outline a budget for the business. I don't understand why you don't get that. But it's so simple to set a goal and just go for it. Why do we even have to talk about Think and Grow Rich? Why do we even have to discuss what the subconscious mind is about? I mean, it's so simple, right? How frustrating would that be for you if I got on here and said that? Hey, people, just write it down and let's go for it. It doesn't happen that way. It's not how we work. That's why we read books like this, to help identify what's getting in our way. For some people, this part is a breeze.
That's why we read books, reread books, reread books. I think this is probably one of the 2 books that I read every so often throughout the year, because every time I reread the book, I get something new from the reading.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's amazing because this book was written so long ago, and it's still very relevant.
Oh, it is. Well, I've been mixing it up. See, the last book we did was Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, which was a great success, and we're going to go back to that. Same principles, just a different way of looking at it, and a bit of a different focus. This is about, we want to be rich. What does rich mean? Whatever dollar amount that is to you. We want money, and this is how we're going to get it. And yes, Walter. Oh, good to see you, Walter. Being successful with anything isn't a magic pill. You are so destroying my delusions here. I was so hoping, can't I just take a pill? It's not brain science. Actually, it is. Neuroscience and brainiology. That's a new scientific term. Neuroscience actually backs all of this up in mindset. Carol Dweck came out with a book, and I think it was in 2009, about mindset, and it's based on neurobiology and neuroscience, showing that we can change our brain patterns. We can change our physical, organic brain patterns through the thoughts we bring in and through our subconscious. Just so you know. And Walter, that's fun. Okay, take back brain science. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it takes work, and the reason it takes work is because we're adults now. That's all it does. I know kids, teenagers that are so on track and targeted. That's awesome. I know young people, 20s and 30s, Neuroplasticity. There you go. That was a word I was stretching for. I know who we call millennials, who are so focused. They know what they want. They're going for it. They're doing well. They understand concepts like this of what we're talking about. I get a couple of them in here and they'd be looking at us like, well, but it's so simple, right? And it's true.
I was going to say,
I can tell you, I've got a brother who knew exactly what he wanted to be when he was 12 years old.
I knew what I wanted to be when I was 8 years old. I just didn't know how to make it happen because at the time there were no websites. This whole idea of web design was not.
See, there kind of were when my brother started. Kind of. When he was 12, he got involved in a little bit of programming, and then studied further. He wanted to be an astronaut, so he ended up going to space camp. And in Huntsville, Alabama, and found out, nope, he didn't want to, it wasn't the astronaut he wanted to be. He wanted to be behind the scenes with the controls. And so he began his studies there and then morphed into that specialized knowledge where he designs replacement human body parts. It's actually a logical sequence of events to get there, but his end goal was to design. And that's what he did. He designed replacement human body parts, holds 5 patents and probably 6 by now. So he is. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. Me? Thought I did. I got in my own way. Difference of 2 kids in the same family, right? Mm-hmm. I thought too much. I got in my own way. I let my own thinking stop me. He didn't. So I could bring him on here. And actually he said to me, yeah, it's pretty good stuff you're talking about. I don't quite understand why you need it, but I said, well, listen, what I know to be true is that it's helped me to change my thinking and my business has grown because of it. That's all you need to know, and that's all he needs to know. What do you think?
Absolutely. You know, some of us need a little bit more reading, a little bit more understanding in order to get to where some other people are. And that's not really a bad thing. Especially not when we have books like this that can actually, you know, we can read and we can understand and apply in our lives and, you know, reprogram ourselves. So, you know, like I was going to say earlier when I was going in elementary school, you know, how when they talk about, 0, that's as low as the numbers you need to go. There's nothing negative. Negative numbers, imaginary numbers, those things don't exist. And then the next year they're like, oh, by the way, we're going to learn imaginary numbers. It's like, you know, with anything, we may not be able to see that right this second. Okay, well, you know, I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of what people think of me. I can't change. Mm-hmm. Well, by simply saying you can't change,
that's fixed mindset.
You've now pretty much fixed yourself. But now you might be able to say, okay, well, you know what? I might not be able to change everything overnight, but I can start. I can start on that path by reprogramming my mind.
Yes, exactly. And often what will give us the oomph to do it is when we focus our attention, concentration, and faith or desire into what it is that we want. I mean, that's, you know, suddenly there comes a time when you've had enough and I don't know what the heck's happening here, but this is what I want. And I'm tired of sitting by and just thinking about it. It's time to get into some action. Sometimes that's what it takes. I want to share a summary of instructions. Okay, near the end of this chapter in the PDF, it is page 61. And here's a reminder. The mere fact that we're reading this book is indicative of us wanting to seek knowledge. It's an indication we are a student of this subject, right? We're looking at this as a textbook to learn from. If you are only a student, there's a chance you may learn much you didn't know, but you will learn only by assuming an attitude of humility. Take away and move away the ego that says, well, I already know all this stuff, and at least just read it with an open mind. To get satisfactory results, you must follow all instructions in a spirit of faith. Okay, So the instructions given in connection with the 6 steps in the 2nd chapter that we talked about, which was defining our major definite purpose, writing it out, and all that, we're going to blend with the principles covered in this chapter, chapter 4. So first, go into a quiet spot, preferably in bed at night, could be elsewhere, where you won't be disturbed or interrupted. Close your eyes, repeat aloud the written statement of the amount of money you intend to accumulate, the time limit for its accumulation, and a description of the service or merchandise you intend to give in return for the money. As you carry out these instructions, see yourself already in possession of the money. Even gives an example here. Suppose you want $50,000 by the 1st of January, 5 years. Your written statement would say, by the 1st of January, 5 years would be 2021, I will have in my possession $50,000, which will come to me in various amounts from time to time during the interim. In return for this money, I will give the most efficient service of which I'm capable, rendering the fullest possible quantity, best possible quality of service in the capacity of whatever service or merchandise you intend to sell. I believe that I will have this money in my possession. My faith is so strong that I can now see this money before my eyes. I can touch it with my hands. It is now awaiting transfer to me at the time and in the proportion that I deliver the service I intend to render for it. I'm awaiting a plan by which to accumulate this money. I will follow that plan when it is received. Does this sound familiar to anybody? I could read it straight. By the 1st day of February 2017, I will have in my possession this much monthly income. That's what I base my definite purpose on. Second, repeat this night and morning till you can see the money you intend to accumulate. Third, place a written copy of all of this where you can see it night and morning. It's on my wall. And remember, as you carry out these instructions, you're applying the principle of autosuggestion for the purpose of giving orders to your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind will act only upon instructions which are emotionalized and handed over to it with feeling. You can be as skeptical as you want. There's too many of us out here saying it works. Did that make sense?
It made perfect sense.
Okay. Now we're talking about language in the comment section. I love you people. Love that. All right, so repetition. Repetition matters. Whether it's physical, we know what that means, right? The physical repetition of doing something so that it becomes automatic. How are you able to pick up a pen and just start writing? You don't have to think about it, right? You just don't have to think about it. This is a skill that you've learned, practiced, put to use so often. You know, how many of us can jump in a car and not think about what it takes to turn it on, to back out of the driveway, to go to the route to go a particular place? I've driven some places often enough that I allow myself to daydream. It's like, oh, I don't remember the. No, don't remember
the trip to there, but you get there.
But I get there. Same thing applies when we're training our subconscious. Same thing applies. Okay, so I am going to close out the recording portion and keep the room open so that we can have conversation about how you can influence your subconscious mind. So thank you for joining me in the live stream, Mike. It's a pleasure to see you on screen. We text a lot. And so it's a pleasure to see you and hear you again. Thank you for those in the comment section. Some great discussions happening there. Those in the live area watching and participating by being here, thanks. Appreciate that you're here. Those watching the replay, thanks for staying with us this long. This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.